Hey everyone, it's Skylar, welcome back to my channel, and we're on to day 14 of 31 days of November challenge month. Now before I carry on, I need to apologise for not being consistent with these videos and to let you guys know that I am going to be catching up hopefully by the end of this evening. So it looks like I'll be doing another all-nighter with these reviews, and yeah, if you didn't already hear on my Facebook status, I done 7 since yesterday afternoon, which is very tiring. But anyway, there's a long story why I haven't been consistent, but I will do that in a channel update video because it's easier to do it on that than here. So anyway, we are on to day 14 of 31 days of November challenge month, and the topic I've chosen today is a movie that was less than 1 hour 30 minutes long. Now that means that the video has to be less than 1 hour 30 minutes, so the video can be 1 hour 29 minutes, but it can't be 1 hour 30 minutes and over. Do you get what I mean? So I have actually chosen an anthology movie for this, which was 1 hour 12 minutes long, and it was released 4th of March 1975, and I've chosen a movie called Trilogy of Terror, which is also known as Tales of Terror and Terrors of the Dolls. It was written by Richard Matheson and William F. Nolan, directed by Dan Curtis, starring Karen Black as Julie, Millicent, Therese and Amelia, John Carlin as Thomas Amman, Robert Burton as Chad Foster from Julia, George Gaines as Dr. Chester Ramsay from Millicent and Therese, Jim Storm as Eddie Nels from Julie, Gregory Harrison as the new student from Julie, Catherine Reynolds as Anne Richards, Tracy Curtis as Tracy, Oren Cannon as motel clerk from Julie, Walker Edmondson as voice of the Zuni doll. Music by Robert Cobert, produced by Robert Singer, cinematography by Paul Lowman, production company by Dan Curtis Productions, and distributor is ABC and MPI Home Videos. So the movie will be starting off from story 1, which is Julie. So the movie starts off with people walking to a school and then a group of men talking on a beach. Then a lady walked past with glasses, and then the men talk about the girl. Then in class the teacher talks to the class, then asks a question, then a man answers a question, then a lady gives the class an assignment. Then the man starts to dream about making love to the sleeping lady, and then the class is dismissed, but the man sits at his desk, walks away, and the teacher drops the book, then picks it up, then asks the teacher on a date. She declines and walks away. Then at night Julie reads over a book and gets asked out on a double date but declines, and the lady goes on her way. Then a man sneaks to a house and the lady takes her hair down and the man is by her window, and the lady starts, which is Julie, she starts to undress while the man watches. Then the next day the man and Julie talk as they walk out of the class about the lesson, then asks her to see a vampire movie and says she's mature and accepts. So they watch the vampire movie together, and Chad goes and gets her a drink, pays $1 for the root beers and walks back to the car, but puts something in her drink first, gives her the drink, and she drinks it and says it's bitter and drinks some more, and Chad tells her that he likes her better, then asks her what is wrong, and she then passes out, then drives her to a motel, and he pays for a room at the motel, and takes some pictures of her in the room, takes his clothes off and then drives her back home. Then she wakes up and she says that she's ruined the evening, but he says that she was tired, and he says that they will go on another date again. Then Chad develops the photos. Then Julie gets a call from Chad and he comes and picks her up. They stop the car, pull over, shows her some pictures, and then she says that she got drugs, but he denies it. Then she threatens him and asks what to do. Threatens him and asks what does he want. Then at school, Julie teaches her students and Chad comes into class late, sits down and listens to Julie, then reads a note. She reads a note and the class is dismissed. Then Julie goes to an apartment and a lady asks what is going on, but Julie can't talk about it and goes to sleep. Then Chad and Julie meet again. Then Julie switches it off and tells Chad it's over. Then Julie says that she was bored. Then Chad starts to choke and he died. Then Julie goes to the photography room and sets it on fire and leaves Chad's apartment. Then Julie sits on the bed and is upset by his death and says she warned him about the chemicals, but he didn't listen and insists that she would like to be alone, and then keeps a scrapbook of all the men that she's murdered. Then there's a knock on the door and a boy called Arthur Moore enters the apartment and says that they are both going to be friends and closes the door. So that's the end of story 1. Then a film starts to roll and it's the second story about Millicent and Therese. A lady is watching old films, then writing her diary about her sister, and then goes to the door, and a man enters the door and starts to talk to him and asks him to look at something, and says that her sister is evil and says that she seduced her father at 16 and is convinced that her sister is her killer, and tells him she got nowhere else to go, and goes on to say more things, but she thinks that the man don't believe her and says she can't help her but can help him, and then she proceeds to leave and says she told her everything as she's very corruptive. Then writes more from her diary about her sister. Then a man's phone rings and he says he will come by tomorrow and hangs up the phone. Then the doctor rings the bell and the sister answers the door and enters, asks him for a drink. He declines and she sits down. He talks to her and she tells him that he's handsome and tells him to loosen up a little and asks if she makes him a little nervous, then leaves. Then Therese walks up the stairs to the sister's room and bangs on the door, and the sister writes about her and Therese. Lies on the bed, and then the next day the girl tells the lady and this little girl, she tells Millicent that Therese broke the doll's head and says she'll buy her a new doll, and then writes more and gets more stuff from her sister's collection, casts a spell on her, and then the doctor answers the call from Millie, and Millie then goes to work as she's made a voodoo doll to look like her sister. Then the phone rings again and it's the doctor, but no answer. Then the doctor rings the bell but no answer. Goes to the side entrance, lets himself in, goes up the stairs and goes to a room, walks round and Therese is lying on the floor and sees a doll beside her, and the doctor calls an ambulance and says the girl is dead. And then he finds out that she's got a dual personality and takes her lipstick and wig off, and basically that she was 2 persons at once, so she had a dual personality. That was story 2. Then story 3, which is the last story. A lady is walking down the street, and basically story 3 is called Amelia, and goes to a block of apartments. Goes inside, opens the door, lets herself in, sits down and opens a box looks inside and takes a doll out with a spear and places him on the table. Then looks around and makes a phone call and calls her mum up. Then argues with her and says she's spending the evening with a guy and gets upset and says it's his birthday, that's all, and asks her to stop treating her like a child. Then they talk some more and tell her about the doll and scroll, and she hangs up on her. Then looks at the doll, talks to it and goes and takes a bath. Then sits on the bed and makes a phone call to Arthur and talks to him, and they then hangs up on him and says hooray for Friday night. Then goes to the kitchen and makes some food and sits on the couch, and the doll is not on the table. Looks for the doll and cuts her finger because she finds the spear. What is it? Yeah, and says come out, wherever you are. Then hears a noise and goes to look in the kitchen but doesn't see anything. Then looks through the drawers, turns around, goes into the living room and looks around. Then the light goes off. Then the doll cuts her legs and hands and goes after her, and she's in the bedroom. She calls the police. Then the door opens and the doll comes into the bedroom, comes onto the bed, and Amelia goes into the bathroom and sits on the toilet. Then the doll comes into the bathroom, runs to the living room and goes to the closet. Then the door opens and is in the suitcase, and Amelia tries to escape, but the doll saws his way out of the suitcase and Amelia gets cut again. Then the doll is free and Amelia stabs the doll and opens the suitcase. Then the doll bites Amelia's arm, and then the doll bites her neck and puts the doll in the oven and burns the doll in the oven. Then the noise stops and Amelia turns round and opens the oven door and screams. Then the phone is engaged and Amelia calls her mum and tells her to meet her here and hangs up the phone. And then she crouches down and has a knife and keeps on stabbing it on the floor as she's now being possessed by the doll. And like, that was the end of the 3 stories. So my thoughts on this, I'll do from each story to story. So out of all the stories, I preferred the first one, which was Julie. I liked the fact how Julie was like, she was this innocent teacher, but she, in the end, she become this murderer, and we come to find out that she didn't commit one murder, she committed quite a few. I like the fact that she turned the tables on the guy. When a guy was really like the girl who drugged her, like obviously raped her, and then was like threatening her that she had to come and meet him all the time to do certain stuff. I really liked that one. That was my favourite. Then on to the second one. It was good in part, but I liked the fact at the end where you found out that Millicent and Therese had this dual personality. So in fact, it was basically the girl who had the dual personality. She basically killed her parents, but you didn't find that out until the end, which I thought that was quite intriguing to portray in like a little short story. But the last one, I did enjoy that one a lot, but as I said, the first one I liked as Julie. But anyway, Amelia, I liked the fact that it was this Zulu doll, and when Amelia put it on the table, the doll came to life because the protected pendant wasn't on the doll and was attacking Amelia, and then came to possessing Amelia. And I like the fact where at first she was arguing with her mum at first, and then she was going to bring her mum to the house for her mum's demise because she ends up being possessed by the doll, which was really cool. So thoughts on this and a rating. Like, overall, they were good. It was a good set of trilogies. Like, I know there's a part 2 to this, which was released like almost 20 years later, but I've never seen it, so I would really like to see that. But overall, this about the trilogy of terror, I it was a good little anthology movie, and I liked the different stories about it, where it wasn't just like about one thing, it was like 3 different stories about 3 different ways that you could kill somebody. One had a dual personality, one was keeping a scrapbook of all students she murdered, and the other one was possessed by a Zulu doll. So all in all, they were great stories, so I will give it a good rating. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 for this, because I was entertained by all 3 anthology films. I never once switched it off, which was a good thing. And it's, to be honest, it's given me a new lease for liking anthology films, because some anthology films are pretty dismal, but this one was totally different, and you could understand and you could relate with the character, what she was going through, especially in Julia. So yeah, 8 out of 10 I'd rate. So of course, if you like this video, then like it obviously, and of course stay gory, have unpleasant dreams, and I'll see you for day 15. So ta-ta for now, bye.